Sometimes it feels like the sun will never rise, like the birds will never sing again. Believing a power greater than what you are going through. When you don't know what to do, keep breathing.
That's right. When you don't know what to do, just keep on breathing. From the City of Angels in Los Angeles, welcome to all my listeners out there in Radio Land. I'm Dave, the Caregiver's Caregiver at caregiverdave.com. And we are also coming to you live and on demand 24/7 on numerous syndicated radio and podcast networks on 26 global audio video platforms, including iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube, Spreaker, SoundCloud, Vimeo, Stitcher Radio, Blog Talk Radio. Oh my gosh, the list goes on and on. In fact, we're so proud to be voted #1 caregiver podcast of the top 50 on Player FM and #2 caregiver podcast on famous BeatSpot out of the top 60. And we have an especially exciting show planned for you today. You need to get a grip on grip before it's too late. Hand and grip strength expert Dr. Terry Zachary is the author of Great Hands, Great Life, and inventor of the Handmaster Plus hand exercise system. And he's former professional golfer, so he knows about hand, and sports chiropractor that saw dozens of repetitive grip injuries to the fingers, thumb, hand, wrist, carpal tunnel, and elbow. Dr. Zachary has helped hundreds of thousands of people to exercise their hands properly and get grip right in therapy, sports, music, workplace, gaming, hobby, and smartphone users. All of that, boy, takes that very delicate muscle, especially the carpal tunnel, and caregivers probably have all of them damaged in some form or another. So it's going to be a great interview. But before we get started, I do want to take this moment to thank my last week's guest, David Orosi. And he now has completed his second book, which is the story of his sister, Kathy O'Dare, and talks about living and caring for the mentally ill. And just a reminder that you can watch or listen to that interview and all our interviews on our membership website, caregiverdave.com, or any of our other 26 global networks that I just mentioned earlier. All right, enough of all that. Terry, so glad to have you on the Caregiver Dave show.
Oh, Dave, really excited to speak to you, and thanks for having me.
No problem. It's our honor. I always like to ask my guests just who is Terry Zachary and why was he placed on this earth?
Well, it's a good question to start off with. Dave, I am by training, a sports chiropractor. Why I was put on this earth, I think when at a very young age, I was a sports fanatic. Everything I cared about I was raised in Canada, so you have to play hockey by rule almost. So I got involved with hockey at an early age, but then as I got older, I really got into golf as well as basketball. And so I was kind of a three-sport athlete as I got serious about them. But before then, it was virtually everything: badminton, table tennis.
So what condition were your hands in?
Well, it's interesting because what got me into what I'm doing today is that I was told as a young athlete, it's going to help you to strengthen your hands and strengthen your grip. And I bet you, like most of your listeners, and probably like yourself, we were told to take something and grab it and squeeze it. And that's what I did most of the time, and didn't really know
exercise things like that.
Yeah, you have like coiled grip strengtheners or spring-loaded ones that we've seen, or even just taking a racquetball or a tennis ball. That's virtually all I knew. And as I got older and I went to school, I'm a sports chiropractor. You start to learn that there's 9 muscles that close the hand and there's 9 muscles that open the hand. So that's my first question: is what about these muscles that open the hand? It turns out, Dave, they're very important. They contract just as much as the ones that close, but they contract in support. And when we speak to, like yourselves, involved with caregivers, that turns out to be really, really important thing. And the more I studied it, my background was I worked with professional golfers. That's all I really thought about was grip in golf. And as we saw all the injuries in golf and studied other markets, we realized anybody that uses their hands, the repetitive grip problem and the poor training is everywhere.
Wow. So are those grip things not good, or they're just doing half the job?
Yeah, I would say, I don't know if I love the term, not good, but it's like I would compare it to telling somebody with bad posture to slouch more. Well, you've got bad posture, miss or sir. I want you to slouch more. And it really doesn't make any sense. You do have the same amount of muscles in the front of your hands, wrists, forearms, elbows, carpal tunnel, as you do on the back. And the thing about hand muscles is they're not local. They move your hands, yes, but they also attach all the way to the elbows, into the forearm, into the carpal tunnel, on the front and the back. So I'm wondering if that's what scared most people away from studying or really looking into the subject, is they are tricky, but we try to dumb it down for the people we work with and say, hey, 9 muscles closed, 9 muscles open. If you never forget that, you'll never do hand exercise wrong again.
Yeah, it's like training your biceps and ignoring your triceps.
Exactly. Yeah. Chest and back, quads and hamstrings, stomach muscle, low back. There's a balance to our bodies. And I think as we start to look at and compare it like you just did there, Dave, once we know the anatomy a little bit more and we don't get scared away from it, once it's simplified, we say, like, why are we doing these muscles and not those muscles? And turns out it's a very good question.
So you're not practicing chiropractic anymore?
No, it was years ago that we developed Handmaster Plus. The story on that was I used to have about 5 or 6 exercises I would give patients to cover all of the muscles that close and open the hand and stabilize the grip. And that was from amateurs to professionals to just, everyday people. And generally speaking, 90% wouldn't remember them. They wouldn't do them. They were complicated. I realized at one point I have to develop, so, it would be great if you could just do this all in one. And it's one of those things where you go to sleep at night and you've got it on your mind and pow, a solution comes into you.
And you became an entrepreneur, an inventor, and so you left your practice.
That's the way it went. It just got too busy and there was too many demands and there was a lot of travel demands. And then as I turned out, like I say, Dave, I meant to be just with athletes to begin with, which is what my expertise was. And then everywhere I looked, the problem was musicians. Then it was workplace, as we'd speak about. Then it was gamers. Then it was smartphones. It just keeps on and on and on. And yet there's very little body of knowledge to understand and explain the mechanics of the grip. And people to the day are still getting it wrong. We're still working with groups every single day to explain this to them. And once they see the exercise done properly, you'll see you get the feeling of how many muscles there are and blood flow and lymph drainage. And you'll see that we've just been doing this wrong for too long. So it keeps me busy and it got me out of practice, but I love what I do because I can really teach people about their body and wake them up to kind of the miracle that this body is.
Yeah. And so you were a chiropractor, you were a pro golfer. How has that helped you in what you're doing now? Did that help you develop that invention?
Yeah, so what I did, Dave, is I decided I was still very competitive at golf. I played in college and I was playing in little local stuff and doing very well. Decided to take some time off and I played in mini tours professionally. I was pretty good at, not good enough where you'd recognize me, Dave. No PGA Tour for me, but I was really able to use, I was exposed to just dozens and dozens of repetitive grip injuries from pro golfers. And because I could recognize the problems they're having with fingers, thumbs, and wrists, and carpal tunnel, you're right, was a lot, and a lot of elbow injuries in golfers. And I was able to see it.
I used to have it too. Golfer's elbow and tennis elbow, the opposite sides of the elbow.
It's a similar.
It takes 6 months to heal.
It is debilitating, and it's one where if, once we work with somebody and we explain to them what attaches at the medial side, which is the golfer's elbow of your elbow, and what attaches at the lateral or the outside of your elbow, and we show them how that works within a particular sport or activity, and we get them to train that area properly and fully through full ranges of motion, you start to see these problems just stabilize. So they're problems that happen due to an imbalance. They don't just come out of thin air and just go, boom, we're going to hit your elbow.
It's almost miraculous. That little band that you put on right about here, it's like it fixes everything. But of course, it's just temporary.
Yeah, it's,
why is that? What's that doing?
Yeah, no, so what happens is, let's take tennis. Well, you had golfer's elbow. Let's take golfer's elbow.
Yeah.
So the medial side, of the elbow, or the inside of the elbow, the origin of those muscles that attach at that elbow were inflamed. So there's a tendonitis at that area. It's very common. Anybody repetitive grips, if you're into sports, it doesn't matter. We all grip. We grip a coffee cup. We grip our luggage when we go, whatnot. But we build that into a shortened muscle. It doesn't take much to really injure it. When you put one of the elbow bands on, which the elbow supports, if somebody's having a problem with their medial or lateral elbow, what it does is just add support to the muscle. So the muscle doesn't have to contract on its own. And that's why it takes stress off what that muscle's being asked to do. And it's highly suggested if you're going through a tennis elbow or a golfer's elbow.
Yeah.
And we always tell the people, just remember that it's not a lack of that band on your wrist that's causing this problem. You need to get to the cause if you want to, maximize your performance and prevent this from happening again.
So I asked about the pros. What are the cons of having that in your past, the chiropractor and the golfer?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the pros were I got to see so many injuries, and I got to really, it stared me right in the face, and really nobody with probably my background has ever seen them all that close. But the cons were, which is kind of a pro, I guess, Dave, is that the cons were I'm trying to play myself. So I had all these people, and they found out that I was a sports chiropractor. They'd come up to me and not really bug me because I'm always curious in anybody going through struggles in their life. But when I had 4 or 5 exercises and big long explanations to tell them, it got really into my time where I'm trying to
just tell them read my book.
Exactly. And I didn't have the book at the time, and I really didn't have explanations, but it forced me. It really did force me to come up with a solution where I could say it was a really rough version originally of Handmaster Plus, but I put some together and I'd say, here, put your thumbs in this, your fingers in this, close and open. Do you think you can remember that? Right? Close against the ball and open against what I had were these like elastic waistbands to begin with. And then they would just do it. And, then we could just talk to them later down the next tournament or something like that. And that helped me out. But it was a hindrance with having to explain.
What is patentable? Like, is the elbow band, was that a patentable device? Did somebody make a lot of money off of that? Or is just, anything can be used for that.
Oh, absolutely. You're talking about the tennis elbow band?
Yeah.
I think probably originally somebody would have had a patent on that. And if they do something unique to it, they can probably figure out a patent. But it's become kind of, public goods by now. So, but with ours, I know we did absolutely change the market, and So
how's your product doing? How many do you sell?
Well, yeah, it's doing very well. We started, Dave, in therapy. We traveled around the world with therapy distributors, thinking that would be our main people that we wanted to explain it to. The uptake is immediate. Many understood it right away, and then we go into more of where we have a brand partner in climbing, a brand partner in music. You'll see it's available.
What's the dangers of what instruments and stuff?
Yeah. So, we're back to this same thing where if I'm gripping something, so if you think about your hand, basically your hand flat is neutral. And anytime I do anything with the hand closed, which again, opening a coffee cup or holding a coffee cup or whatever, your briefcase, etc. If you do that all the time, now you're going into a repetitive situation. So guitar, absolutely. Guitar, piano, anything the other thing too is not just on preventing injury, Dave, but we talk a lot about you want to maximize your performance. Like you want to be able to open your spread on a piano, for example, some of the classic stuff. The piano players that we work with over the years tell me this. I'm not a piano player, but how much the spread is important. So we strengthen abductor, the spreading muscles of the fingers. And so it's just for performance too, but also definitely to keep the muscles in balance. If I'm playing a guitar, a trumpet, those muscles will slowly shorten, slowly get into imbalance. And we want to make sure that we offset that imbalance so that you can walk away with healthy fingers, thumbs, hands, wrists.
I never would have guessed. Were you surprised that industry needed your product?
I was surprised by everything. Like even we went in with golf and we developed basically what is our medium strength, very close to our medium strength even today. And then we had people, again, stroke clinics, arthritic clinics, and just through patients, I would start to see different applications and say, maybe I should start to look at a soft version of this and even a more firm version for the real knuckle draggers and the real strong people, and all kinds of applications, all kinds of markets.
Yeah, my wife had a stroke, and so her right side doesn't work, and she's just using the heck out of her left side, and it's starting to hurt because it's doing the work of two hands, and maybe your grip might help with that.
Yeah, absolutely. We deal with so many different scenarios that are interesting to me. The situation with, like your wife's, which of course I know about, and absolutely anything she's doing is going to be left hand. So you think about you and I using two hands, and even if we're dominant, we're still using our weaker side. Right. On a regular basis. Well, now there's one dominant hand, and anything we talk about mechanically, you got to multiply that by some degree of a multiple.
Yeah, and that is their weak side.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those things where the mechanics of the hand are the mechanics of the hand. We actually deal with one of the people we know is a one-handed golfer, and wow. The comparison is it never stops. The one-handed golfer now all of a sudden is practicing, good player, like really good player, practicing all the time. Somebody in a wheelchair is gripping, and now they're not using their hands for just what we would normally. Now we're talking about locomotion as well. So there's a multiple. So all the factors that happen now, the mechanics are that much more amplified. If we're always repetitive gripping, those mechanics that I'm talking about that lead to imbalance problems at any part of that chain of the upper extremity, you see a lot of problems, and absolutely your wife would benefit. Absolutely.
Yeah. I also play the piano, not really good, but it's a hobby, but I've noticed, it's hard to, it just aches after a while because, you got to try to keep your hands straight, but I don't know what to do with that. Probably your thing with
Dave, I've got something that I actually kind of assumed I would talk to you, because when it's caregivers, the lifting situations. But one thing we've run into, which is a real surprise, we run into it when we were doing EMG, electromyograms on a guitar player, and the guitar player kind of went back, like in a performance, and leaned way back, and the signals of the muscles on the back of the fingers and thumb and wrist, which are the extensor muscles. They're the extensor opening muscles. They're more the support muscles of the grip. They just went crazy. So what we noticed, and I'm bringing this around for a reason, Dave, you're a piano player, anything with your palms down. Okay. So I tell you that those extensor muscles, those are the muscles in the back of your fingers and thumb and wrist and elbow. Those muscles are contracting whenever you grip something. So if I grip it, it looks like only the hand closing muscles are working, but your extensor muscles are supporting that grip. Now multiply that by 2 if you've got your palms down and you're playing piano, or you're a dental hygienist, let's say, gripping and doing something. Now, not only are those extensor muscles supporting the gripping action of your hands and fingers, but they are also holding your wrist against gravity. Does that make sense? So it's
that's what it felt like gravity. I was fighting gravity.
Yeah, and if you had your fingers underneath the piano keys, for example, and you were flicking up for the back of your wrist wouldn't be a problem, even though those extensor muscles on the back would still be working to support the actions of your flexor muscles. So,
and getting older doesn't help either.
Arthritis. Yeah, we talk about this a lot, boy. You're hitting on all the subjects, Dave, that I talk about pretty passionately on a regular basis, because I will tell you, if we don't start to understand our body, and the hands are just a great example. If I go and nobody runs into me or any of our people that are doing work with these hand muscles as we're doing, you're going to continue to grip and grip and grip, and maybe you want to strengthen your hands and you take something and squeeze more, right? That scenario of bad posture, slouching more.
Yeah.
You're going to continue to go and go and go, and then all of a sudden, over time, now your body can adapt in the short term, but over time, these repetitive grip injuries become where your body can't get away from it anymore, and we call that old. And I highly disagree. Well, we do get old, yes, but if we exercise properly and we are taking our body's parts through their full range of motion with with appropriate resistance, we stimulate obviously muscle strength and muscle balance. Then, but we also strengthen blood flow and lymph drainage, and that's what keeps tissues healthy. You have to be exercising with proper resistance, but also in balance and through a full range of motion. And we can stay feeling young for a lot longer than we do before we have to blame it on being old. We got to blame it on not knowing what we're doing before blaming it on being old.
Yeah, well, caregivers, I think, know that they need help in this area because they're always lifting and pulling and squeezing and all that stuff. But your book, let's talk about your book. You have a book?
Yes, we have a book out, and it's after we've talked about this so much. I wrote a book, and it's called Great Hands, Great Life. What it does, Dave, is this is the book here, Great Hands, Great Life. It's available basically on Amazon online. They can look and find it. It goes through all the different parts of the body and why they become imbalanced from repetitive gripping and why we need full range of motion, proper exercises to be our best, basically, and to offset these imbalances so that we don't run into these common problems that we just say, I just developed tennis elbow. Well, there's a reason for it. It's not just a name, it's a cause. Mm-hmm. And we deal with all those in the book, and people can read whatever part they're interested in. We go through carpal tunnel syndrome, go through all the elbow problems.
Wow. And I got to get that book.
Yep. You let me know. I'll send you one.
So how can people get their copy? It's on wherever books are sold?
Yeah, I think Amazon is the most common place to send people. They can search online, and it's pretty easy to get a copy of the book. It's in ebook and paperback and hardcover as well.
You need to do an Audible.
Well, I've got an Audible of a golf book I did years ago. We just haven't done the Audible on this one yet, but we're speaking to so many people about it, Dave. It's got so many applications that I think we will probably do an Audible, because I think that's the way I read books now, and I always have a hard copy going of books, but when I don't have time and I'm traveling, Audible.
I've written 4 books, but the last one I did an Audible, and it's great. But now I got to find the time to do Audibles for the other 3 because it's always at the bottom of my list.
Yes.
It's so busy. Well, I can't believe the time is already gone. You covered a lot of stuff, and how can people get a hold of you if they want to know more about what you do, or maybe invite you to be speaker somewhere or whatever?
Yeah, Dave, I'm whatever anybody wants to know. This is what I do. I love doing it. They want to have education or ask questions about anything to do with grip or the upper extremity. They can get a hold of me at info@doczac.com. That's DOCZ as in zebra, AC.com. I'll answer all emails. I love educating people about this area. See so many injuries that are unnecessary. Or they can go to handmasterplus.com and have a look at the product. You can find the product everywhere, including online. So it's very easy.
And how much does your Handmaster cost?
Yeah, it depends where you find it. The individual ones, I think, are usually, there's a soft, a medium, and a firm. They're usually around the $15, $16 range. The 3-pack is... Yeah, the 3-pack's under $40 usually. Depending on where you get it, they're very reasonable.
How long do they last?
They last a long, long time. Follow the instruction. They last a long, long time. I still got one of the original ones that I originally tested.
So, do golfers wear this instead of a golf grip, or does it take place?
No, so this is it's a separate exercise product, and with the golfers we have large tour players using it. We're not able to use names all the time here. Sure. But any tour you'd see people using them to train the grip properly. And the thing about it is they don't have to take forever to train their grip. They know close, open, spread. There's also, for your viewers, to really train the grip properly when it comes to elbows, there's a second exercise, we call the figure 8 exercise. They can look that up online, and that strengthens all 27 muscles of grip. So there's additional muscles in the forearm that complete the grip.
So is there anything else you want to cover that we didn't already, Terry?
Yeah, I think one of the big things when we talk about exercising the hands is that yes, you get the muscles balanced and you get the muscles stronger, and that helps the joints and the stability of the structures. But we also stimulate blood flow to the extremities and lymph drainage to the extremities.
That's important.
What that does is it's going to actually help you with your circulatory system. That's how we get nutrients to sites. That's how we get toxins away. So it's very much a wellness exercise, not just, hey, let's strengthen our hands type of thing. And I'll add one more point, Dave, is there's multiple studies that will show grip strength directly related to life longevity. So,
really?
we don't really want to ignore any part of our body, and the hands have been ignored really for decades, and they're very, very important for blood flow and overall well-being.
Wow, you're very knowledgeable, and you're a great salesman as well.
Yes, I love the stuff, and I think
you're very passionate about it. I can tell.
Absolutely, there's so much to it, and I didn't believe there was much to it when I started, and it just keeps on. The more I dig, the more you see about how important this area of your body is.
Well, thank you for helping everybody and for changing the world one person at a time. Great, thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. And just remember that all our live shows, I'm talking to my audience now, become recorded pod and video casts on all your favorite platforms. Just click on the button that says follow or like, and it helps Google give us more exposure. And we thank you so much for making us the #1 caregiver podcast. And just a reminder, my newly #1 released book, Secrets from the Hammock, Uncommon Wisdom for Uncommon Times, is spreading wisdom all over the world, and it's available wherever books are sold, and also on my free membership website, caregiverdave.com. And if you would be so kind as to join my Caregiver Dave Facebook community of 34,000 caregivers, where you'll learn all about my new caregiver wellness retreat and mastermind in Acapulco that I offer to burned out caregivers. We're just trying to keep as many of those 30% of caregivers who die before their loved ones do alive. And if you click on the like or follow button, like I said, that'll really help us. So thank you again to all my listeners out there all over the world for tuning in every Wednesday, making us the #1 caregiver podcast on the internet. Till next week, may God richly bless you. Bye-bye. Hey everybody, it's Dave Nassani, otherwise known as Caregiver Dave, and I'm coming to you live from this beautiful Acapulco villa, which I like to say is the perfect prescription for caregiver burnout. And I have a unique opportunity to bring 14 burned out caregivers up here so that they can decompress and do all the things that they need to do. But this is just a bonus. It actually comes with the 6-month Zoom coaching program. It's a one-on-one consult with me, Caregiver Dave, to identify where you are and where you need to go. It's a 6 monthly small group coaching sessions to smash any obstacles between you and your ideal vision of what a caregiver needs to be and caregiver success. You get my 3 free books and instructions on boundaries, grief, self-care, organization, asking for help, learning how to say no, avoiding burnout, avoiding depression, avoiding perfectionism, avoiding isolation, avoiding resentment, delegation, team building, how to have fun, how to have no guilt, the importance of gratitude, and after caregiving, when you're no longer a caregiver. But this 7-day bonus is absolutely free. It comes with the coaching program that you pay for. And the food is all inclusive. I'm telling you, 7 days and 7 nights here is amazing. This is truly paradise. And I highly recommend it. For more information, go to caregiverdave.com. That's going to send you to my other website. And if you want a shortcut to get there immediately, just go to acapulcodave.com. Thanks again. I look forward to seeing you in Acapulco.
Sometimes it feels like the sun will never rise, like the birds will never sing again. Keep breathing, take it in and let it out. Keep breathing, it's gonna be okay. Believe in a power greater than what you to do.